Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard. I'm TCaptainX. Today we're going to be discussing the top 5 assault rifles or long-range guns, including LMGs and battle rifles, in Call of Duty Warzone after the Season 3 Reloaded update. So jumping right in, we're going to first be doing a comparison of those top 5 guns, looking at their strengths and weaknesses. And we're going to be using our website, GGs.ai, where we've created an AI algorithm that ranks all of the top loadouts in Warzone. So first, I've got this filtered on the weapons page here. We're of course going to be looking at long range, and I'm going to have assault rifles, battle rifles, LMGs all selected here. And then we're going to start off by looking at the balanced play style. So changing these actually changes the algorithm and how it scores and ranks these guns. So under the balanced algorithm, the SVA 545 on burst is ranking 10 out of 10, the #1 gun right now. MTZ 556 is the only other AR that is coming in at a meta score. After that, the Taq Evolvere LMG, the Holger 556 AR at A tier. Then we have a pretty big gap. There's actually no B tier guns. It jumps all the way to C tier, D tier, and so on. But I do want to point out one thing is if we switch this to the casual playstyle, the casual playstyle really favors recoil control over almost anything else. The DG58 LSW then jumps all the way up to meta because this gun is just very, very low recoil. And then also just FYI, the Ram 7 is coming in at an F tier after its nerf. It got absolutely slaughtered in this update, so please stop using the Ram 7. So in the yellow line here is the Ram 7, looking at the time to kill chart, and you're going to see it has by far a slower time to kill all around. So again, please stop using the Ram. Then there's that DG58 in the red line. You're going to see close to mid-range TTKs aren't anything too impressive, but at long range, very, very good TTKs. And this gun has super low recoil. So if you're a big map Urzikstan player or just someone who wants a low recoil gun, DG58 will be a great option. Then in the orange line, we have the MTZ 556. You'll see close range TTKs very close and competitive with these other guns, but also very dominant at mid to long range. So if you're looking for a fully automatic AR, especially for Resurgence, MTZ 556, probably your best bet. Taq Evolvere in the purple line you're gonna see has actually great close to mid-range time to kill. So it does jump off kind of hard at long range, but this gun, again, low recoil, great bullet velocity. Only downside to this, it's kind of a slower shooting gun, but it is very good all around otherwise. Then the Holger 556, if you want just a really, really easy, low recoil, fully automatic AR, the Holger, great close range time to kills and mid range as well. And then finally, in the blue line, you're going to see the SVA 545, great close and mid range time to kills. At long range, it does fall off a bit, but the SVA on burst has essentially 0 recoil. The only penalty or downside is that it is a burst, so you have to keep firing that trigger. A few other stats, not to bore you guys, but just to give you a quick summary here. This is the weighted expected time to kill, which basically says what's the time to kill that you can expect to get in most situations here, including things like recoil and accuracy. Holger 556 actually ranks #1. We have Taq Evolvere, MTZ, SVA. These 4 are all very close. The DD just jump off pretty hard, and that's because it's close. The mid-range TTK isn't that good. And this is looking at more like what's the most common gunfight range you're going to get into. And then the Ram 7 is just horrendous. Weighted damage output, how many downs you can get before you have to reload. The Taq Evolvere is insane at 9. It has that huge magazine, but it has a very, very slow reload time because of that. All the other guns are about the same at 3, but then the MTZ and Ram are only down at 2 because of those smaller magazines. Expected accuracies is basically how good is the recoil, and you're going to see the 2 LMGs are on top. Then we've got the SVA, Holger, MTZ, and the Ram at the bottom. Now there are a bunch more stats here on our website, GGs.ai. I'm not going to go through too crazy here, and I'm going to just do a quick kind of summary of these guns again. So SVA 545, probably the best overall assault rifle in the game right now, as long as you're okay with bursting it. If you have a decently fast enough trigger finger, if you're playing on a normal controller, you might want to try playing flipping your R2 with your R1. That way you can shoot it a little bit faster. Or you could just get an aim controller that has digital tap triggers. It's got 4 paddles on the back, so I can do my side canceling, reloading, plating, all of that good stuff right from the paddles and never take my thumb off the analog stick. And it's got the custom analog stick, so I've got the taller right one, which really helps with my aiming. And it comes with a lifetime warranty. Again, this is aim controllers. Code TCaptainX will save you money at aimcontrollers.com if you're interested. But if you can keep up with that fire rate and be accurate while bursting it, it's the best gun in the game. If you don't like bursting it, the MTZ 556 is probably your next best bet. It has pretty fast fire rate. Recoil is pretty solid, great mid-range TTKs, and it handles very, very fast for an AR as well. Only downside is a smaller magazine. If you're not an ultra aggressive and you don't care about the slower mobility and slow reload, the Taq Evolvere is insane. Great TTKs, huge magazine, but it's just that big clunky LMG. If you want the lowest recoil, like automatic assault rifle, Holger 5.56 is it, especially if you're a Resurgence player. But if you play big map and you don't need those kind of close to mid-range TTKs, you want those better long-range TTKs, then the DG58 would be the better option. And then finally, the RAM, don't use it. That thing sucks. All right, so I'm gonna rate the Taq Evolvere at number 5 overall. And that is mainly just because it handles kind of slower, although it does hit really hard. A few different ways you can run this here. This is kind of my go-to. I generally run the Jack glassless optic on all of my long-range guns when I'm playing Resurgence. Now, if you're playing big map, you might want to consider doing a little bit higher zoom like a Choreo, but I just like that smoother firing aim stability that the Jack glassless offers. If I'm gonna have a suppressed long range, of course I'm gonna go with that VT Spirit Fire suppressor, but if you ever want even lower recoil, generally the Cassis brake is your best option because it really smooths out that horizontal recoil and it just makes the recoil as smooth as possible. Now this gun does not have the option to use the Bruin heavy support underbarrel, so instead we're using this Hound 9G grip, which does help a good amount with our recoil as well. And then the LOF Righteous long barrel, and finally the Rampart heavy stock for even more added recoil control. Then we have the DG58, again, super low recoil gun, great for big map, but maybe not the best option if you're a Resurgence player. For the best lowest recoil, Cassis brake, but if you want to stay suppressed, just run that Spirit Fire. Bruin heavy supports are generally our go-to underbarrel because it really helps smooth out that recoil again. The Woody long barrel for more range and recoil, and then finally the recoil butt plate reduction stock. And again, I like the Jack glassless optic. Now I have seen some people run iron sights on this gun. If you have this fossilized blueprint, it actually gives you kind of a like clear iron sight. I'll show you guys here in the firing range. Pretty cool, and this is me not even controlling the recoil, very low recoil. The other thing I want to point out about this gun is it has insanely good bullet velocity at over 1,000 meters per second, so very, very good for big map. Okay, then we've got the Holger 5.56, which I'm ranking at number 3 overall. Again, this is probably the lowest recoil AR, so if you just want a super low recoil AR for Resurgence, this is probably your best bet right here. Again, if you want even lower recoil, you can switch that Spirit Fire suppressor for the Cassis brake, but generally I think this gun is low enough recoil that we can use a suppressor, and generally being suppressed and having that extra range with this is the better option. Now this gun has pretty good iron sight, so you could totally go take off the Jack glassless and then put on something like a high grain, and this will actually end up giving you some extremely good bullet velocity and range as well. And just to show you guys the iron sights here, they're pretty solid. They're not great, but they're not bad either. Then we've got the MTZ 5.56. This is probably the best overall fully automatic assault rifle, especially for Resurgence, because it has very fast handling, very fast ADS, sprint to fire mobility, all that good stuff. I think this build is by far ran best as an iron sight build and as well staying suppressed. Now, if you want this to be ultra low recoil, again, switch that Spirit Fire for the Cassis brake. If you want a little bit even better bullet velocity, take off the recoil Marauder stock for something like high grain. You'll have a very high bullet velocity and range with this, although the recoil gets a little bit more wobbly like this. Now, if you don't like the iron sights, then I would say take off that recoil stock, put on the Jack glassless. This is a pretty good setup. It's a tad wobbly. I think really if you're going to run the optic, you then need to switch the suppressor for the Cassis. So if you want an optic build for it, this is what I'd recommend. And then finally the SVA 545, and again, we are running this thing on burst, so just very important that if we use it in full auto, it definitely has some recoil, but if I hit over and put it in single fire, which is really burst, it's a 2-bullet burst, you're gonna see, and I will, this is me not touching the recoil, I'm just firing as fast as I can, it has no recoil. Now I did change my build on this ever so slightly. I used to run the Bruin heavy support, but I've instead gone to high grain. That way I have even faster bullet velocity, insanely fast bullet velocity of over 1100, which makes this nearly hit scan where you barely have to worry about leading your shots, especially on Rebirth Island. You definitely can switch the Jack glassless for something like a Choreo Eagle Eye if you want a tad more zoom, although I just like the Jack glassless personally. You could also even go iron sights. One other option, if you want this to have even less of that just like tiny initial kick, you can switch the Sonic for the Zem, and you'll still have great bullet velocity, but this makes it just even smoother. So again, that's me literally not controlling it. I'm just spamming it. You're gonna see it barely moves. Now, if you're looking for the top SMGs, I just covered that in yesterday's video, but I really quick will cover what tacticals, lethals, and perks I run, which I also covered in yesterday's videos. I am pretty much always running smoke grenades. They can just help you get out of so many situations, especially late rotations in game. Stims are decent, but because they don't give you that much of that movement speed buff, I just don't think they're generally worth running over smokes. I pretty much only play Resurgence, so I am always running throwing knives, although Semtex, frag grenades, and even the thermal barrel grenades are a really good option as well. Then as far as my perks, I'm always going with Double Time and Mountaineer in perks 1 and 2. I generally go Tempered over Quick Fix. I've had this argued with me a lot of why I do this and not Quick Fix, because everyone's like, Iceman Isaac made a video and it's better. Yes, Quick Fix is great. The reason I run Tempered generally is because Quick Fix is only the better option when you are getting to really low health. Like you get down to absolutely one shot, then Quick Fix is better than Tempered. But if you're only getting all of your plates knocked off, but not into your health, then Quick Fix isn't doing anything for you, and 2 plates is faster than 3. So that's why I prefer Tempered. And then finally, my perk slot 4 is always High Alert, especially since they buffed the audio on Rebirth Island. I don't think Flex is as good, although Flex is nice for avoiding claymores and things like that, but I think High Alert's just too valuable. Alrighty guys, that is gonna wrap things up. Again, I encourage you guys to go check out our website, GGs.ai. And if you're looking for the top SMGs video, I will link that here somewhere on the video so you can go watch that. Bye-bye.